All right, joining us now is Sierra Han, a DBS Taiwan General Manager and Chief Executive Officer. Thank you for joining Yahoo Finance in Asia. We really appreciate it. I know these are very busy times. So take us through, some of the trends you're seeing in your markets. M&A has been very, I think, key to the banking sector in recent years. Take us through that, and why do you think these deals are happening?
Well, we bought Citibank's consumer bank in Taiwan, but there's another one that's going on right now in the market. These things are happening because I think, in the first place, Taiwan is overbanked. So there's more bank that they really need. And digitalization is bringing about a wave of consolidation. With digitization, actually, there's something that people often forget, right? You need skill to digitize. You need to invest in systems, you need to invest in programmers. The other factor I would say is, years after years of post-2008 banking regulation, those things are getting quite complicated, and really you need to invest in people and system to maintain capital ratios, liquidity ratios. So these things are leading to some of the smaller players being not so efficient. And I think, the market is starting to realize this, and we're seeing wave after wave of consolidation.
For those U.S. investors not familiar with some of the conditions on the ground where you operate, why are there so many banks in the country?
I think it's a path the local market took as they were opening up to external competition. Actually, I go with my experience in Singapore when we wanted to open up. We went for consolidating the local players so that they can be competitive with incoming large, American and European banks. Whereas in Taiwan, the way I understood it was they went the other way and they opened up the market and go, who wants to apply for a banking license? So there's quite a few different conglomerates or businessmen that went out and opened up new banking licenses. That was, early 2000, I would say. Yeah.
Take us through that.
What we're seeing now is an aftermath. Yeah.
Take us through that integration of the Citigroup assets. It's a deal that we followed very closely here in the United States. I understand you are a key person in that deal. I mean, why did you make it, and what does that business look like now?
Why do we make that deal?
Correct.
Well, first, let me explain the deal a little bit. It's a demerger of the consumer business and then merging it into our bank. There's various type of merger. There's obviously mergers where you just buy up the entire bank. There's also mergers where you buy up the entire conglomerate, which is one of the deals that's happening. This is actually the third deal that DBS is doing in Taiwan. And it's part of our strategy to keep investing in Asia. So when the Citi opportunity came up, we looked at it very seriously and felt that it would accelerate our local business by up to 10 years. So we decided to go for it. Now, DBS has really been very comfortable applying digital technology. We're the best digital bank in the world for quite a few years now. So we felt that it was perfect, right? You get the customer scale, and then we put in the technology investment that we've already done to get the business to scale.
What are some of your clients asking you for? What are the services that you're rolling out to them?
There's two things, right? We're known for our Asian network. So part of our Asian strategy, we only have key businesses in Asia. So that includes Hong Kong, China, Taiwan, and then Indonesia, India, and Singapore. So for corporates, a lot of these goes into that. North Asia +1, China +1, Taiwan +1, diversifying your global supply chains out of North Asia goes really well into our franchise, right? You start setting up factories in Indonesia and India. That's where we can help you. So that's on the corporate front. On the personal front, it's really about investing. If the US audience is not familiar, Taiwan is a massive saver society, so there's lots of wealth management for the customer, and that's really a global thing. The ability to invest in US stocks, in bonds, US dollar bonds, funds. So that's a bit of what we're seeing on the consumer front.
A lot of big US banks, they've started to focus more, I would argue, on their US businesses. And then I look at a Credit Suisse, that merger with UBS, maybe they've pulled out of some overseas markets. How has that impacted your bank? Is it fair to say you're gaining market share as these other companies maybe pull out or don't do as much business?
I think Credit Suisse didn't pull out, Credit Suisse kind of merged into UBS very quickly. That's useful for us because we run a very big wealth management business. We're third largest AUM in Asia. So there could be concentration risk. So it could be customers who had accounts in both sides saying, hey, I've not too much eggs in the same nest, and I'm just shifting some of the AUM to another bank. So we do benefit from such transaction going on in the market.
It's almost 2025. What do you think some of your drivers of your business will be for next year?
Very similar to what we talked about. I think that supply chain rejigging is still going on, and it's still gaining momentum. And so that's the big driver. That's shifting from, I think, more just opening up new capacity to perhaps more aggressive capital reallocation. So we might see some customers try to get their North Asian business to run independently, and then at the same time free up that capital to apply that into Southeast Asia. So that's on the corporate front. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then on the investment front, I think we've seen on the personal wealth management front, we've seen a lot of that capital shift into bonds as rates was higher, and then that's coming down. I think maybe it's time we shift back into equities, but perhaps not U.S. equity. I mean, U.S. equity is at all-time high, so there could be other markets, or could be small caps. I think that might be value in for on the wealth management side.
Given the growth outlook that you just shared, do you think your company will stay acquisitive? Just given, like you mentioned, there are a lot of banks out there in your market. I mean, do you think you'll go out there and acquire some more?
But we'll never say never, right? So we've never ruled acquisition. In fact, this round of acquisition came about when COVID first started. We've always been a fairly conservative bank, and we went, hey, we're in good shape. We know there will be opportunities to come out, and the bank actually not only bought the Citi Consumer Bank in Taiwan, we also bought a bank in India, also bought stakes in China. So we'll always be on the lookout for things that make sense to our strategy.
I think a lot of U.S. investors, they think of Taiwan, of course they think of Taiwan Semiconductor. It's one of the most important companies in the world. It's one of the most followed companies at Yahoo Finance. For those not in your market and that don't do what you do, how big is the movement towards AI and digitization, and how is it impacting the clients you work with and the businesses you work with?
AI and GenAI always have two elements for me in Taiwan. So there's always the TSMCs of the world, the IC distributors, the guys who run the OEM assemblies. So those guys are benefiting in a great way, right? Because the orders are landing to, a lot more to Taiwan than any other parts of the world. Then there's the other part, right? That's applying the technology, and we do think about that as well in our day-to-day. And I think of that in two folds again. One, it's a bit like a calculator, right? Think about the days where you have calculator to the point where you have computers, where you have Excel. So your work is always compressing, right? And for me, that's just doing more work, maybe hopefully going home earlier for dinner with your family. But at the same time, I think Gen AI is going to bring about a big transformation in the way we work. I think we're not quite seen it yet. Perhaps I'll use channels, how you distribute content, how you acquire customers. I think with Gen AI, that's going to create new channels that we haven't really even started to take a crack at.
I heard that you're big into sports. How is your sporting career and your passions there? How has that shaped your management style?
Oh, management style. I think, well, first it helps to de-stress, right? You exercise, yes. You get a long day, and you're sitting on a chair all day long, and then you get to go for a long run, or you get to go for a long ride. So that helps to balance the temperament, I would say. And then it also helps to think about my interaction with people. Sometimes we do go for team building that involves a lot more outdoors. We just had a little event where we cycled from Taipei to Kaohsiung. That's pretty much the entire coast of Taiwan. And it helps to bring the people together, but at the same time let people interact with leadership a lot more. So those are just little things that I kind of use sports to mix it up a bit with my management style.
Has it helped, in your view, the operating performance of the company, that team bonding and the fact that people are back together after COVID?
Oh, yeah, it's a work in progress, I would say. It's not something that it's not digital, right? You can't say I did it and therefore the results are 10% higher. You just kind of get along with it, especially because, like you said, right, COVID, and we're still applying that work from home. We have a 60-40 arrangement. We still have arrangement where 40% of the time people are working from home. So I think sports, in a way, is a way to bring people together. So you you come together for meetings on WebEx, but you gather in person for a ride along the river.
We're in the U.S. We're undergoing, it's been a fascinating election season. How do you and your teams think about geopolitical risk on a global scale?
I think that's something that we have very little influence about. So it's a bit like, oh, whatever's going to happen in the US, and then we just have to react to it. But at the same time, living in Asia, we're just very comfortable with that risk, right? So that there should be reasonable players. So it does fluctuate depending on, who's in office in the White House. But it's something that we then learn to manage our business, knowing that there will be volatility. There will always be volatility, just more or less.
As we look to wrap up here, this has been an awesome conversation. What are some of the, if investors had to think about potential surprises to markets, to their businesses, what are some of the good and bad potential surprises to markets in next year?
I think this Gen AI run up, I would say, has gone ahead of itself. But at the same time, it takes a while. Like every new technology that comes along, we've seen it in the 2000 dot-com bubble crash. We've seen it in the application of derivatives over 2008. So every time there's something new comes up, eventually it's not like technology is bad. It's just sometimes people get too excited about it. So we do see that could be something that could play out in very different ways before we can see the real, productivity gains. That's one. I think what's surprisingly for me so far is the fact that we had this huge run up in interest rates, and barring a few regional banks in the US, we haven't seen really big bad things happen. There has not been a huge skeleton come falling out of the closet anywhere else, especially in Asia.
It has been surprising. Do you think, the US Federal Reserve, as they cut rates, do you think that impacts your markets at all and how you do business?
Well, it impacts banks. So banks, a large part of that is interest income, and as that rates cut, you see banks looking to tighten their belts a little bit, looking to be more disciplined in where we invest and where we spend money. I think that's inevitable. But at the same time, I don't think we're going to see rates come back to those pre-COVID level lows or post-2008 lows. I think there's a neutral rate that's 3%, and that's the new norm that I think banks will learn to work with, and maybe also businesses will learn to work with.
All right, we'll leave it there. Really enjoyed this conversation. Sierra Han, DBS Taiwan General Manager and Chief Executive Officer. Thank you for making time for us. That bike ride sounds amazing. I wish I would be able to do that here in the United States. I just have no time. So thank you for joining Yahoo Finance Invest Asia. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you.